Hello everyone. I know I promised I won't make you sit through another episode of Building Roads, and that is only half true. I will have to dedicate a portion of this episode to finishing the rest of our roads, but don't worry, that isn't the only thing I will be doing. I will also start planning the first farming area, in a calm little valley just north of our initial setup. In addition, I will also plant some trees around town, and try my hands at some workshop assets, that won't go according to plan. So, this is where we left off. Some parts of our town roads are being worked on, but that's about it. I will start by building the outer dirt road shell I mentioned in episode 2. This will ensure that vehicles can get around while the actual permanent roads are upgraded. And with that, we can start completely rebuilding the ring of roads around the service buildings. Just to make sure ambulances can reach the apartments, I'll extend the footpaths to a usable piece of road. Thankfully, emergency vehicles can use them to get around if necessary. I'll perform the obligatory accessibility checkup, to see if all housing blocks can reach all necessary services. And we already have issues with reaching the school. Well, that was easier than expected. Everything looks good. Houses can reach services, ambulances have road access, deliveries can get to the store, and buses can move between the only two current bus stops. At this point I kind of realized that there is no way I'll be able to build this long stretch of road before the end of the episode. I may have been able to build another bypass, but I prefer to get done with the town as soon as possible. It's been long overdue. Time to officially name the town. This is my go-to for my first town on every map. And since we are at it, might as well replace the awkwardly positioned default name tag for the border outpost too. Oops. Misclick. I rarely use these banner letters on my buildings, but I think they look kind of neat on mass transit stations. Since there is no way I'll be able to reach the industrial area for the end of the episode, I decided to start planning out the first agricultural zone. This valley looks like a neat place to start. There is a nice gentle dip in the middle, so we can place the central infrastructure there, and place the fields along the sides. I'm placing a couple test fields, just to see how they look on these slopes. I think it will look great. Of course, the heart of every agricultural zone is the agro farm. This is where I'll have to ask you to disregard most of what I'm laying down here. I've been doing some tests on how to best set up this part. At first I wanted to have one silo for export and another for storing grain exclusively for food production. But we cannot really give priority orders to the distribution offices, so what I place down now is not really workable. Of course, the first thing everyone tries the first time they try to set up a farm is to chain silos with factory connections. Unfortunately, that's only really viable for mass storage. If you connect the last one to a food factory, only that one will be used, every other silo in the chain will hold on to their reserves, and not pass it along. Factory connections only work with neighbors, not as a chain. Then I tried to do it with forklifts. That worked really well. I only unloaded grain into the food factory silo, and told the forklifts to start moving stuff to the export one if the load gets to 90%. The problem with that one was that to have more than one silo feeding into the food factory, it would require a forklift network that simply isn't worth the expenditure. And at that point the solution came to me. It was so obvious. Why would I sell excess grain? They are among the most worthless products in the game. A full truckload sells for less than 200 rubles at the start of the game. It's much better to store what we can, and if some of the harvest rots in the fields, well, unfortunate, but not a big loss. We just have to make sure the food factory have access to enough crops to last it between harvests, and we're good. I've also been experimenting with placing down fields that are more than just a grid of these big fields, rows after rows. The ones I'm placing now only meant to be placeholders anyways, so don't get too attached to them. I only wanted to see how far I can push them up to the foot of the mountain. Just keep in mind that this area is only going to be built a couple episodes down the line. It will go through quite a bit of fine tuning before I'll be happy with it. I really need to pay more attention to the time settings. I've been fiddling with the farm area in normal speed, and barely anything got built while I was away. Now that I think about it, I don't really need a paver and a roller in the construction office right now. I'm not building asphalt roads, so they can be sold and replaced by dumpers. I need to remember that for next time. So, yeah. Don't get used to this layout. Just testing the waters. I downloaded a couple new cosmetic assets from the workshop. I really wanted to put a fence around the more dangerous buildings, like this asphalt plant. They work with a lot of super hot and super sticky stuff there. Last thing we'd need is someone unqualified wandering in. Unfortunately, these assets are not proper fences, they don't connect to the gate's fence points. Plus, they cannot be built in cosmonaut mode. They have no outside connections, so no materials or workers can get to the site. Bummer. But looking at that workshop monument I downloaded made me realize that we can start beautifying the town a little bit. Since the latest update, these monuments are no longer mere decorations, but they actually boost the loyalty of our citizens. Now, I have no idea how exactly they work. They have a radius associated with them, but whether citizens can simply walk by them to get the boost, or if they need to be in one of the buildings covered by that radius, I don't know. I feel like this star would be a bit out of place at this spot. A statue would be nice, but maybe a bit later. Since I want to have some kind of visual aid to judge distances here, the new ruler feature comes in handy. As it turns out, 90 meters isn't nearly enough to give me the coverage I'm looking for. It was a toss-up between these three, and in the end I'll go with this hammer and sickle wreath mural. But before I fully commit to it, I'll just place the red star in the border outpost. I feel like it will look more at home in an industrial setting. In front of the warehouse looks like a good place. With this mural, I think we can turn this corner of town into a neat little park. With sections completed around the outer ring, we can start removing certain parts of the service road shell. I learned my lesson from the mishap with the power line earlier. I'm really trying to get into the habit of using the specific removal tools to avoid future accidents. We seem to be doing okay at taking care of the needs of our population. They are happy, well-fed, healthy, cultured, get enough exercise, and have adequate apparel. With the monuments I hope to keep their loyalty at around 30%, which should be a-okay, until I can manage to build some kind of propaganda outlet. I purposefully didn't build any pubs, so alcoholism is almost completely done away with, and religion, well, you know how it is. And just to give them a bit of variety, I sometimes like to build a football field and a couple tennis courts. Yes, they are unusable during winter, but when it's nice outside, why not have a place where people can chase a ball around in the grass? They seem to enjoy doing that for some reason. It seems there's barely enough room between the houses to squeeze in a footpath. Not really necessary to have it there. I might remove it and put some bushes in between to fill out the space. The outer ring is almost done, and the industrial connection is coming along nicely as well. And we have our first fire. This is why it's so important to ensure all buildings have some form of connection to the whole republic. Even if driveways are inaccessible, footpaths are still a way for emergency and construction vehicles to get to their destinations. Since we're still waiting for stuff to be built, let's turn our attention to giving our town a bit of greenery. Poplar trees are a great way to serve as the centerpiece to a small patch of land you want to beautify. You can then place some other kinds of trees around them, and then fill out the rest with bushes. In cities, trees tend to be placed with purpose. Well spaced, without bunching together too much. I was trying desperately to squeeze in some greenery into these small strips of land, without much luck. We will have to wait to see how the current seedlings mature and plant more when we can see the bigger picture. Gravel supplies seem to be stable, and coal levels are high in the heating plant. I keep forgetting to delete the old service road. I'll remember it one day. I really think that side road going to the medium voltage switch will have to be a dirt road. That is way too much gravel for our current construction office to handle in a timely manner. I still can't decide if I should fast forward through these long stretches of waiting, or if I should cut them out, and replace them with a montage. While I can occupy myself by checking on stuff, following vehicles on their routes, or just watching things unfold, I bet it can get a bit boring for you, the viewers. If you guys would prefer montages, I'll try my best to include some panning shots while recording these segments, so I can cut them into some transition footage while editing. But please know that I'm editing a couple episodes in advance, so I won't be able to implement your feedback for a little while. I know different creators have different styles dealing with dead air. Some make cuts, some insert little scenes, others like to make some cinematic transitions, etc. Let me know which one you prefer. I think when I am actively doing stuff, like placing a lot of roads, or planting trees, fast forwarding should be the way to go, but this kind of waiting around can be a bit much, even on 4x speed. Now that the last remaining sections of the outer ring are pretty much finished, we can unpause the two monuments we planned to build earlier. The trees seem to be growing nicely, so we can see more easily where we can place some more plants. These beech trees will be a great addition. If you feel like another tree would be a bit of an overkill, bushes are a great filler option for greenery. Time for some drastic reconstructions. With the outer road finished, I wanted to completely redo the footpath network from scratch, to remove what's not needed. Instead of searching for superfluous connections, and finding out later that they were not as irrelevant as they first seemed, it's easier to just tear it all down and build up completely new connections. Of course we can only do this freely with dirt footpaths, but even gravel connections can be first planned out, and only submitting the plans to the construction office when you're completely satisfied with the blueprint. A couple trees will fall victim to all this, but progress demands sacrifices. Plus they are free to replant. Not a lot has changed, but it's a bit more streamlined. Of course the same thing will have to be done again once the inner roads are finished, and only upgrading them to gravel once I know I don't have to change them later. The resources for monument foundations are at the construction site. Won't be long before it's finished. The Red Star Monument already finished its foundation stage, and our workers are already working hard at building the main attraction. And the bus is on its way to bring more of them to the site. I have a feeling its proximity to the raw materials really helped this one winning the race between the two monuments. The mural only needs one more concrete delivery. This is something I like to do from time to time. A lot of building have these open-ended pieces of pavement sticking out like sore thumbs. I just use these cosmetic ground textures to quote-unquote connect them to the nearby roads or other infrastructure. They have no gameplay effect, they just make it look a bit better. I'll just go around town and quickly tidy up some small details I can see. More gaps appear as plants mature, so let's remedy the situation. Since both monuments already have their requirements met, and the last stretch of the industrial connection is almost finished, we can finally turn our attention to the town's inner roads. I pay close attention to see where pedestrians aren't going, those roads are safe to upgrade. If there are people walking on them, I try to see if I can build a bypass footpath. I also periodically check if everything is still in walking distance for our citizens. That should do it. The clinic and the town store can use the piece of gravel road to the north to reach the outer ring, and pedestrians have access to everything. After all this time, we can finally say that we are done. Our efforts can finally go towards the clothing industry to the south. Hey, look! Our first snowfall. Better make sure our heating plant never goes without coal and workers, or we are done for. The town is well heated right now, so let's make sure it stays that way. The mural is done, so I'll do what I always do. Place a bit of gravel around it, so it looks a bit better. And I'll do the same for the red star too. Real shame about these fence mods. They look really nice, but aren't really suitable for a Cosmetic game. Since we don't have a road maintenance depot, we cannot clean the roads. To ensure regular arrivals in our heating plant, I'll add 2 more microbuses to the line. We are closer than ever to finishing this road. I'm really hopeful we can start production at the end of the next episode. And I feel this should be plenty for another episode. The amount of fast forwarding I had to do shrunk the source video file from over an hour to less than half of its original length. Something to take into consideration in the future. Took us a couple episodes, but we got there in the end. Starter outpost finished, roads upgraded to gravel, first industrial buildings ready for construction, and we even have a candidate for our first farming zone. Once we have some money coming in, I might expand our construction infrastructure a little bit. Instead of going for farming straight away, I might have a secondary construction office set up, and even the beginnings of a gravel processing plant. We'll see. I hope you liked the video. If you did, dropping a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.